There arrives a juncture in the odyssey of every sensitive soul, each finely tuned psyche, when the weight of excessive feeling becomes an almost crushing burden. Yet, often this unbearable weight isn't their own at all. You, who have entered a room and sensed a sorrow unspoken, who have borne the anxieties of strangers as if they were your personal cross, you aren't mistaken. You aren't weak, nor are you cursed. You are something far rarer, empathic. But I tell you this evening with the utmost gravity, your light is in dire peril of being consumed. When the light within a soul radiates too brilliantly, when it emanates not from a mere persona, but from a profound inner flame, the shadows inevitably appear, not merely as observers, but as devourers. The unconscious, with its insatiable hunger for wholeness, invariably draws its opposites. Thus, you, as a beacon of light, magnetically attract those who have lost their own. Yet, this isn't simply a matter of social dynamics or psychological compatibility. It is a spiritual alchemy of the most perilous kind. Empaths are often initiated not by choice, but by sheer survival. Their profound perceptivity is a mechanism honed in childhood, perhaps from tiptoeing around an unpredictable parent or from absorbing the overwhelming chaos of a world too daunting to confront directly. And so, the empath's very being became a listening chamber, their soul a sponge. They adapted by attuning themselves to every subtle nuance, every flicker of another's emotional flame. However, what begins as mere adaptation morphs into identity, and that identity inevitably attracts its opposite in nature. For every empath, there exists a narcissist waiting to complete the circuit. And I do not speak of narcissism in the common, everyday sense of mere vanity or selfishness. No, the narcissist I speak of is an archetypal figure, a symbol, a reflection of the fragmented self who, having exiled their own pain, now seeks to feed upon the light of another. Where the empath feels too deeply, the narcissist feels too little. Where the empath gives without end, the narcissist takes without shame. One bathes in the ocean of others' feelings. The other constructs an impenetrable fortress to avoid their own. They are drawn to each other not by simple romance or fate, but by a profound symbolic compensation. The very law of the unconscious demands balance, and so the unhealed lightbringer unconsciously calls forth the shadow devourer. This is no accident. It is an unconscious ritual, a reenactment of some ancient dream in which light and dark desperately try to remember that they were once one. But beware, this union is not sacred unless both awaken, and far too often, only one carries the heavy burden of waking. You, the empath, may believe it is your destined role to heal the broken, to fill the emptiness within others, to love the unlovable back to wholeness. This belief is not true compassion. It is a form of possession, not by demons or ghosts, but by an archetype far too vast to be contained by one soul alone. It is the wounded healer, Chiron, whose unending agony becomes both his path and his prison. The danger, then, lies not in your light itself, but in your complete identification with the light. The narcissist feeds on this very identification, not consciously, for they are often not villains in their own eyes, but unconsciously, they desperately seek what they have exiled from themselves. You become the mirror they cannot bear to shatter. Your empathy morphs into a fuel that allows them to avoid confronting their own agonizing pain, because in your very presence, they no longer feel quite so utterly empty, at least for a time. But like a vampire that recoils from its own distorted reflection, they will ultimately resent what you show them. And you, dear soul, will feel as if you are slowly dying, not your physical body, but your very self. Each compromise, each suppression of your own inner truth to preserve the fragile relationship is a slow, agonizing sacrifice upon the altar of someone else's denial. You will dream of drowning, of being relentlessly chased, of houses with no exits. These aren't mere symbolic metaphors. They are the desperate cries of your unconscious, pleading with you to awaken, to finally see that what you call love is often self-erasure, that what you call unwavering loyalty is sometimes simply trauma tragically reenacted. But do not despair. The excruciating pain is not a cruel punishment. It is a vital portal. To walk away from such a destructive dynamic is not betrayal, it is liberation. And to liberate oneself from such a soul-crushing entanglement is to reclaim one's light, not as a gift to be carelessly consumed, but as a powerful force to be fully integrated. For your light is not meant to save others. It is meant to guide you on your own path. Empathy without firm boundaries is nothing short of self-destruction. Love without discernment is mere codependency, and healing others without first diligently healing oneself is spiritual martyrdom, not true transformation. The path forward is neither to dim your brilliant light nor to harden your tender heart. It is to know thyself intimately, to gaze not only into the eyes of others, but also into the mirror of your own precious soul. It is to bravely meet your own shadow, to own your projections, to discern the crucial difference between divine guidance and destructive emotional enmeshment. Only when the empath fully recognizes their own inherent narcissism, the fragile part of them that desperately needs to be needed, that fears abandonment so profoundly it will endure absolutely anything to avoid it, can the destructive cycle finally be broken. For just as the narcissist insatiably consumes, the unconscious empath willingly offers themselves to be consumed. This is not sainthood, it is tragic self-forgetting. In this dark, revealing mirror, you must bravely ask, who truly benefits when I silence my own truth? Who is being fed when I dim my inner knowing? What deeply buried part of me truly believes I must suffer endlessly in order to be loved? These difficult questions are vital keys, but you must turn them slowly, gently, with unwavering compassion. The ancient door they unlock leads to profound depths. Behind it lies not only your long-awaited freedom, but also your immense power. And that power is not to fix others, but to truly see them, with unwavering clarity, without losing yourself in the process. You must deeply understand this fundamental truth. The unconscious is not inherently evil, but it is undeniably amoral. It does not care for your personal comfort or even your basic survival. It relentlessly seeks wholeness at all costs. And so, when you walk through life as a beacon of light, unguarded. The unconscious of others will inevitably reach out, not in greeting, but in an attempt to absorb your very essence. Their unintegrated shadows, those fractured aspects of themselves they refuse to acknowledge, will recognize in you not love, but a source of fuel, not genuine connection, but an opportunity for consumption. This is the timeless, archetypal drama that defines the empath's existence. Born with the profound gift of inner attunement, yet burdened with the deceptive illusion that others can be saved through self-sacrifice. And it is precisely here, within this treacherous illusion, that so many empaths become lost. The delicate boundary separating martyrdom from true meaning becomes agonizingly blurred, and what was once a sacred calling slowly morphs into an insatiable compulsion. If your light finds themselves consistently and inexplicably exhausted after spending time with certain individuals, understand that this is not a mere flaw in your nervous system. It is your very soul screaming out in protest. The body, that unwavering vessel of truth, never lies. It holds within it the profound wisdom that the conscious mind stubbornly refuses to acknowledge. Empaths, in their desperate attempts to make sense of these emotional maelstrom, often try to rationalize their way through the chaos. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive, maybe I says, attempting to minimize the experience. But this is not mere sensitivity, this is utter submersion. You are, in essence, drowning in the turbulent waters of someone else's unconscious, tragically mistaking it for love. The most perilous action an empath can undertake is to assume responsibility for another's transformation. The narcissist, or rather, the archetype of the insatiable devourer, will never undergo genuine change simply because you overextend yourself, pouring your energy into a bottomless pit. They change only when the mirror shatters, reflecting back the ugliness they refuse to see. When the wellspring of supply is abruptly cut off, when the carefully constructed performance of the relationship no longer elicits the validating applause of your unwavering attention. They change not when you love them more intensely, but only when you finally choose to leave, and even then, only if their soul is ready to confront its own darkness. But this harsh truth is often unbearable for the empath, whose deeply ingrained trauma script whispers, "If I love enough, I will finally be safe. You learn this not in the realm of adulthood, but in the formative years of childhood. You learn to soothe the volatile tempers of unpredictable adults, to meticulously anticipate the ever-shifting moods of those who held your very survival in their hands. You became exquisitely attuned not because it was inherently noble, but because it was absolutely necessary for survival. And what was once a vital adaptation gradually transformed into a destructive addiction, to fixing, to peacekeeping, to serving as the balm for wounds that you did not inflict. But I say to you, final warning, the child is innocent, yes, but the adult must awaken from this slumber. The narcissist does not merely reflect your opposite. They reveal the hidden part of you that still harbors the insidious belief that you do not matter unless you are useful, unless you are serving some external purpose. That deeply ingrained belief is your prison, and unless you actively dismantle it, brick by painful brick, you will continue to attract those who are perpetually starving, those who will smile warmly at your radiant light while surreptitiously sipping from your very soul, not because they are inherently evil, but because you, unknowingly, allowed it. You open the gates without first asking the crucial questions. What am I protecting? Who guards the guardian? You must learn a new, radically different form of love, not the kind that bends until it inevitably breaks under the strain, but the kind that possesses the strength to contain, to hold boundaries. Love that has structure, love that possesses the unwavering courage to say, I will not abandon myself for you, not even for a moment. That is the kind of love that truly heals, not just others, but you, at the deepest core of your being. And therein lies the profound paradox. Empaths desperately seek to be loved for who they truly are, in all their messy, authentic glory, but so often they hide that very self, burying it beneath layers of performance in their desperate quest to be accepted, to be deemed worthy. They shape-shift, they edit, they absorb, they adapt until one day they no longer recognize their own reflection staring back at them from the mirror. This is the core wound, and this is also the urgent warning. If your light does not actively return to yourself, reclaiming your sovereignty, others will continue to feed on you, not out of inherent malice, but out of sheer necessity, driven by their own unacknowledged wounds. Because if you stubbornly refuse to set the necessary boundaries, life itself will ultimately set them for you, in the form of a devastating breakdown, a crippling burnout, the shattering of your deeply held illusion that love is synonymous with pain. The myth of the empath is not merely personal, it is profoundly collective, woven into the very fabric of our shared human experience. You carry the unacknowledged pain of your entire lineage. You dream the forgotten dreams of ancestors who were never truly seen, never truly heard, never truly held in loving embrace. Your heart serves as a sacred temple for unspoken sorrow, and your task is not to carry it further into the darkness, but to transmute it, to alchemize it into something beautiful and new. That transformative transmutation begins when you say, with unwavering conviction, no more. No more abandoning yourself in the desperate pursuit of external validation. No more mistaking intense drama for genuine intimacy. No more calling trauma bonds soulmates, romanticizing the unhealthy connections. No more sacrificing your inner peace in a futile attempt to be someone else's peacekeeper. The world does not need more burnt-out healers, sacrificing themselves on the altar of others' pain. It needs awakened ones, whole ones, fierce ones. Those who have learned to protect their precious energy not through fearful withdrawal from the world, but through the unwavering practice of discernment. And what, precisely, is discernment? It is the quiet courage to name what you truly feel, deep within your soul, before it becomes convenient, before the opportunity slips away. It is the sacred pause you take before you reflexively say yes, when your soul is screaming a resounding no. It is the radical act of choosing yourself, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of profound spiritual responsibility. For if your well runs dry, if you deplete your own resources, what authentic truth can you possibly offer to a world desperately in need of healing? Let even Christ be clear, you are not too much. You never were, and you never will be. But you have undeniably given too much to those who simply could not hold it, to those who were not ready to receive such a profound gift. And that is not your fault. It is merely a pattern, a deeply ingrained habit. But patterns, when brought into the light of conscious awareness, become portals, doorways to profound transformation. This is the essence of alchemy. This is the precise moment where your empathy becomes your greatest strength, not a life sentence of suffering. The danger is undeniably real, dear one, not because people are inherently monsters, but because they are wounded, carrying their own unhealed traumas. And wounds, by their very nature, will instinctively seek healing, even if it means draining the healer dry, especially if the healer does not yet know their own inherent worth, does not yet recognize the immense value they bring to the world. But now you do. The soul cries out for balance, and balance for the empath often means learning the challenging language of limits, of boundaries. It means discovering that love is not measured by how much you can endure, by how much pain you are willing to tolerate, but by how much truth you can hold, including the unwavering truth of your own worthiness. This is the beginning of individuation, not the treacherous path of merging with others, losing yourself in their narratives, but the courageous journey of returning to yourself, reclaiming your authentic self. Every empath must face this sacred threshold, the paralyzing fear of becoming selfish, of prioritizing their own needs. But this fear is not the voice of your higher self, guiding you towards your true purpose. It is merely the echo of old programming, the insidious voice that told you your needs were inconvenient, your feelings too loud, your truth too costly to express. But I ask you, how long will you continue to pay that exorbitant price? How many more times will you betray your own intuition because someone else looks sad, because you fear their disapproval? How many more nights will you spend trying to solve emotions that were never yours to begin with, burdens you were never meant to carry? The empath's heart is a compass, a powerful tool for navigating the complexities of human connection, but only if you allow it to point inward first, only if you prioritize your own well-being. If you only use your profound sensitivity to attune to the pervasive chaos around you. Intuition because someone else looks sad, because you fear their disapproval? How many more nights will you spend trying to solve emotions that were never yours to begin with, burdens you were never meant to carry? The empath's heart is a compass, a powerful tool for navigating the complexities of human connection, but only if you allow it to point inward first, only if you prioritize your own well-being. If you only use your profound sensitivity to attune to the pervasive chaos around you, you become an antenna for suffering. But if you turn that sensitivity inward, it becomes vision, vision into what's real, vision into your soul's architecture, vision into the subtle movements of energy that whisper, this is yours, and this is not. Do you know what happens when an empath awakens? They stop apologizing. They stop shrinking. They stop over-explaining their boundaries to people who benefit from their absence. They begin to shine, not as lanterns for others' darkness, but as torches, fierce, rooted, sovereign, no longer begging for a seat at someone else's table, but building their own altar, not of martyrdom, but of truth. This is what the world fears, the empath who remembers their power. Because when you remember, you stop being easy to manipulate. You stop being available for emotional vampirism disguised as connection. You stop mistaking chaos for chemistry, and you begin to ask a deeper question. Does this relationship honor who I'm becoming? That question is a sword that cuts through illusion. It is the filter through which every bond must pass. And it does not mean you become cold or unfeeling. It means you become clear. And clarity is love's fiercest expression. But I must tell you this. Not everyone who claims to need your light is meant to have it. Some will come with charming wounds and magnetic stories. Some will cry in your arms while sharpening daggers behind your back. Others will truly love you, but only the version of you that stays small enough not to threaten their own stagnation. Your light is holy, but it is not charity. You do not owe your soul to every outstretched hand. Even Christ had discernment. Even saints walked away. If healers rest, so must you. If you feel a pull towards someone, pause. Ask, is this resonance or repetition? Is this intuition or an old wound seeking resolution? Because not every pull is sacred. Sometimes it's trauma disguised as destiny. Sometimes it's your inner child whispering, maybe this time I'll be chosen. But you must choose yourself first. You must become the parent your wounded heart never had. the guardian who says, "I will not abandon you again, not even for love." You see, final warning to empaths is not that others are dangerous. It's that your own unhealed need to be needed is the most dangerous of all. When you feed others with your essence, believing that love must cost you your vitality, you repeat the ancient story of self-erasure. And that story does not lead to liberation, it leads to depletion. But when you see the pattern, when you hold it in your hands and say, "I understand now," you reclaim the pen. You write a new chapter, one where you are not a sponge for the emotions of the world, but a vessel for truth, one where your light does not flicker with exhaustion, but burns steady with purpose. And that purpose is not to save others from their darkness. It is to embody the truth that wholeness is possible, not by absorbing pain, but by transforming it. Empath, your gift is not your suffering. It is your sight, the ability to feel what others cannot, to perceive what is hidden. But with this gift comes the responsibility to protect it, to guard it, to revere it. Let your yes be sacred. Let your no be a spell that seals your energy field. Let your presence be a blessing, but never a buffet. You are not the answer to everyone's hunger. You are not a cure. You are not a savior. You are a soul, sovereign and seen. And when you finally believe that, the world stops feeding on you and begins to respect you.